Another item I just want to briefly talk about is the custom election code. You might have noticed that there is an act, the First Nations Elections Act, that provides an opportunity to bands to have, if you, through BCR, agree, if a band agrees to fall under that act, then the provisions of that act would apply to them. There's a lot of prohibitions in that act in terms of what candidates or electors or electoral officers can and cannot do, prohibitions. The other interesting element about the First Nations Elections Act that it extends the time for term from 2 years, as it exists currently under the Indian Act, to 4 years. What council has discussed and decided that instead of going under the First Nations Elections Act, we're going to come up with our own custom election code, which is a certain provision that exists under the Indian Act. Currently, within Canada, there are roughly about 630 some odd bands that exists. And of that number, roughly half, a little more than half of those bands have a custom election code. So custom election codes are nothing new to First Nation bands. We're looking to develop a custom election code with the involvement of community. I believe that that a custom election code is one of the most important initiatives a band can undertake. The reason why I believe a custom election code is so important is that currently within the Indian Act, the provisions basically are standard provisions that exist to bands across the country. So it's just an act. What a custom code really allows is community choice and community preference. So in essence, we would determine the manner and process in which we would choose our council. We can be able to choose the number of councillors we wish to have. We can choose the term of office up to a maximum of 5 years. We can set out certain qualifications for leadership. We can do a number of innovative things. We can sort of stagger elections of council, where potentially you can vote for some of your council, let's say 2 or 3 years into it, and then vote for the remainder later. So you always have a consistency, at least somewhat of a consistency within leadership. You can set out roles and responsibilities. You can do a number of things just to, allow, the community preference to sort of take place through a custom election code, sort of making it our own. And you can almost sort of, if we do go for a school, eventually, if not this time around, then, we can really get into leadership. We can start, setting certain goals for our future leaders within the community. So we can come out with some sort of leadership sort of courses within the curriculum of education to develop and mentor leaders within youth within our community. So we can sort of look at it sort of like from a holistic perspective, not only through youth initiatives, so when they become adults that they're quite aware of what the system is, they would look at sort of the requirements and roles and responsibilities, and who knows, even make those standards even higher for generations to come, because it is a definite privilege, to be, to serve community and play a leadership role within community. How essentially a custom election code will be adopted, is through a vote of all membership, both on and off reserve. So it allows members to really become part of the dialogue, to ask, the questions they feel are appropriate on a variety of issues as it relates to elections, whether it be the number of council that we decide to go with, which is a consideration because we don't get funds to support salaries for council, or and within that chief. So for every new councillor, and the current formula under the Indian Act is one council for every 100 members. So, there's just no funding for that. So it allows us to consider what is an appropriate number. It allows us to come up with our own rules upon, let's just say, if, a member of council passes away, if they die, which was certainly the case with us. Within this, since the last election, we lost Councillor Francis, and it allows the community to sort of address situations like that, whether, we decide to have another vote, or, if the next person that had the most number of votes can sort of take on that role or that position. These are all options that we can consider under a custom election code that, quite frankly, the Indian Act never doesn't really address situations like this. It's sort of like a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. So I'm really looking forward to having a custom election code, to developing it, and allowing community members to play an important role in that and develop it. We have a lawyer that has allocated some time to help us out in that regard. And we will be communicating with you in the near future on what that essentially means and how we're looking to sort of develop the process to develop a custom election code. So really looking forward to that initiative taking off within our community as well.